Okay.
Perfect.
You got 10
Thanks
seconds.
for setting that up. That was brilliant. I'm going to hit it. Thank you, Chris. Hello. Thank you for joining me this evening. It's wonderful to spend time with you. So, I feel that, there's so much talk about people being narcissists, and like everybody seems to know people in their lives that have narcissistic personality traits and things like that. And I just been watching and listening to a clinical, like a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Ramani Durvasula, and she's quite prominent. She has quite a YouTube following, and she she's incredibly well known. And she's going to come out with a book. It gets released on February 20, and it's called "It's Not You." So I'm definitely going to get a copy of this book. And what we could do is we could kind of talk about it a little bit, and I can read it and then maybe highlight a bit about if there's interesting parts in there that I'd like to share. So for now, I just want to introduce you to her. And so I just want to kind of give you an idea. She's so experienced with um, working with people who are like victims of narcissists. So she's very empowering to help people who are like in an intimate relationship with a narcissist, or perhaps their parent, or their child, or their colleague at work. Someone that they're very close with is a narcissist. Um, and so she just has a lot of really helpful advice and insights about how they kind of, act, and how they sort of work, with their mind is, it's sort of like wired in a sense the whole different way. They're very self-centered. So I don't know any narcissists, but I just wanted to help people in case you did have someone in your life. And there is a difference between narcissistic personality disorder, which is NPD, and just having narcissistic traits. So when someone is being referred to as a narcissist, they may not have the disorder, but they might have some of these traits that they display. So so she says, how do you maintain your sense of self and self worth when you are living with a narcissistic partner or family member? She knows it can be incredibly difficult and draining to deal with the criticism, the gaslighting, the lack of empathy, and the constant needs of a narcissist. Over time, it can truly erode your confidence and make you question your own judgment and perceptions. You may find yourself tiptoeing around them. This is so common, like walking on eggshells over your own judgment and perceptions. And you're afraid to bring up issues or express your needs out of fear of retaliation or punishment. So she would like everyone to know this is understandable given the unhealthy dynamic that occurs with narcissists. However, it's so important that you retain your self worth and your agency. So that means like don't give up your own sense of self. Like don't so subjugate what you need and um, what you want, what you need in an everyday basis. Like you can't always be, um, oh, it doesn't matter how I feel. I have to always do what this person says they want to do. And it's just really, you may not even realize that you're even doing this because it's it's an insidious thing, and they very much will do anything to keep you under their control. And so it's it's heartbreaking when I hear about somebody who's in a relationship and they don't feel they can get out. Um, they really deserve to feel safe, to feel heard, to be seen, to be respected, to be loved, and to feel safe. So it's just such an unhealthy dynamic. So it's vital to have supportive relationships outside of the narcissist, whether that's friends, a therapist, or a support group, maybe even colleagues at work that you can talk to. She feels you have to have your feelings and experiences validated and be wary of further isolating yourself. So often, what people who want to control you, what they'll do is they will slowly isolate you from your family and friends and people that would be able to help you, able to see them for what they really are, because they don't want you, the narcissist doesn't want you to have a clear eyed view of your life or of your relationship or of them. They're very much hiding behind a mask, and so they can act, charming and enjoyable in a group. And then what might happen is you could get in the car to go home with them, and they just turn into this whole other person, and they just completely put you down. They make you feel so bad. They don't care if you start crying. In fact, that's probably their aim. And it doesn't matter how much you might have tried to not have this person be upset. Once they decide that, you're going to listen to what I have to say and you're going to pay for it, it's really awful because people might think that they really are the ones with a problem or that they did something bad, and they haven't. So pay attention. This is Dr. Ramani. Pay attention to the ways, big and small, that you do exert agency, independence, and take care of yourself, despite the challenges of dealing with a narcissistic partner. Maybe you held a boundary or stood up for the kids. Maybe you pursued a hobby that gives you joy. Maybe you did an act of self-care, and they're trying to make you feel selfish for it. So write these things down, these small little victories, and read over them, these little acts of resistance. Also, don't play their voice in your head. Engage in positive self-talk. When they hurl insults and criticisms or gaslight you, don't take it in as being reflecting of your worth. They're just spewing poison at you and hoping that you're going to take it in and drink it. And it has nothing to do with the truth. So reject their statements about you being too sensitive, irrational, or incompetent. This is about their issues and distortions, not the truth about who you are. You know your own mind. Repeat affirmations about your strengths, capabilities, and intrinsic self-worth. I know living alongside a narcissist can seem absolutely draining, but with the right support and perspective, you can retain that vital sense of self-worth. You have so much more power than you realize. Don't let them take that away from you. So she's so good at talking about how narcissistic people, how they operate, how they think, how they act, how they are in the world, and unfortunately how they treat the ones who are the closest with them. So Dr. Ramani knows all too well how deeply damaging and confusing gaslighting can be when coming from a narcissistic partner. So gaslighting is when they say something over and over again to try to influence you to believe it. So if you were to complain about something, they would turn that around and make you the problem, that it's your fault. So even if you hurt, like you don't hurt them, but they end up hurt for whatever reason, they can blame you for causing it. And all you're trying to do is keep the peace. And that's the last thing you want to do is upset them, right? But they'll make everything about, that you're the problem. So they'll say things like, you're not remembering that correctly, right? So these insidious statements undermine your confidence in what you know to be true. The first step is recognize that you are being gaslit. Narcissists employ gaslighting intentionally to maintain their position of power and control in the relationship. Once you can name, oh, that was gaslighting, you can start to combat its toxic effects. Next, Dr. Ramani suggests start documenting events, conversations, promises made, and other factual occurrences in the relationship. Whether you do this through journaling or keeping screenshots of text exchanges or emails, having documentation builds trust in your perception of reality. So when gaslighting happens, you can have those written records and timelines to counteract the questioning of your memory. Additionally, whenever possible, communicate through written channels with your narcissistic partner rather than just verbally. With a written record, it is much harder for them to outright deny or rewrite the narrative about promises made or hurtful words later on. Finally, connect with close friends or a therapist. I would say if you have any way of having access to a therapist, even if it's online, you so deserve that. They can serve as an impartial reality check to confirm your experiences. Having third parties who know you can attest to patterns of behavior can counterbalance the disorienting effects when a narcissist tries to imply you're paranoid or unstable. Leaning on people you trust is crucial. The painful aspects of narcissistic abuse can linger, even once you've created physical distance from your abuser. But by recognizing manipulation tactics and finding external validation and support, you can begin rebuilding the trust you have in yourself above all else. That ability to know and affirm your own reality, again, is so essential to the healing process. Dr. Ramani always celebrates the strength and resilience, the courage, and she believes that you do have the power to take back your sense of truth. So, if you're wondering, is my partner narcissistic? Here's what she said on how to know if your partner is narcissistic. So she says, when I'm working with clients who are wondering if they are with a narcissist, there are a few patterns that she has them look for. These include a grandiose sense of self-importance. Do they have an overinflated ego? Do they constantly talk about how great, smart, and accomplished they are? Do they take credit for successes that should be attributed to others? This exaggerated sense of superiority is a hallmark. Lack of empathy. She asks, are they able to emotionally connect and understand your feelings or distress? Or do conversations always seem one-sided and focused solely on them? Narcissists struggle profoundly to see beyond their own needs and priorities. Needing constant admiration. They expect you to heap lavish praise on them. Tell them how lucky you are to be with them. Reassure them of their brilliance. And if you don't, They may sulk or rage until feeding their enormous sense of entitlement. They also feel special and unique. They believe that normal rules of behavior and even the law don't apply to them, and that they deserve exceptions and allowances that other people do not. They are continually dissatisfied and critical because the world does not treat them as special. You may be beginning to think about the small handful of family members and friends they have are only still tolerating them because those people play by their rules and give them narcissistic supply, which is kind of like that attention, that energy that they need. It's called narcissistic supply. So part of that is through praise and kind of accommodating them and making them feel like they're special. Otherwise, if they don't get that supply, they discard people who no longer provide sufficient ego stroking. Ultimately, Dr. Ramani says, pay attention to how stressful and taxing the relationship feels. Narcissists can be incredibly charming at first, but their profound capacity for manipulation and refusal to care for others' well-being takes a toll. Knowing the signs means recognizing sooner when you're entangled with someone deeply toxic. She says, as always, prioritize taking care of yourself first. You deserve so much better than to merely be an audience for a narcissist's ego. The healthy, fulfilling love you seek is out there. If your parent is a narcissist, that's a tough situation. She says realizing a parent can be a narcissist can be painful and challenging to reconcile. There are so many cultural messages about respecting your elders, about honoring your parents, and showing gratitude for all they provide for you. But the truth is, narcissistic parents engage in deeply damaging behaviors: criticism, control, emotional manipulation, and dismissal of their children's needs. And this can leave lasting scars well into adulthood if not addressed and healed. If you find you have a narcissistic mother or father, Dr. Ramani says, first know that their limited ability to empathize or see you as your own person has nothing to do with your own worthiness of love. This is about their disorder and their distortions. She says, start establishing stronger boundaries and limiting time spent together to reduce their capacity to keep inflicting emotional harm. Reframe the cultural narrative that family is everything. Know that you get to choose who you spend time with and energy on depending on how you're being treated. Build a chosen family of supportive friends and mentors who can provide the care, understanding, and validation that your narcissistic parent is unable to give. Seek counseling specifically to unpack childhood trauma. It can help enormously in building self-confidence and learning to meet your own needs where your parent failed you. And consider going low or no contact with a narcissistic parent if necessary for your mental health. This runs counter to what society often expects, but reducing or eliminating contact can be vital to protect yourself and halt ongoing damage. Narcissistic parents may never change, and so you might have to be the one to break the cycle. As always, I know I see your resilience and strength. This is Dr. Ramani saying, the journey to heal from narcissistic parental wounds is challenging, but so worth it. You deserve to feel seen, heard, and loved. Don't let your parents' disorder undermine your self-worth. So, background story for Dr. Ramani. She says, this is her voice. I'm often asked, how did you become such a renowned expert on narcissism in relationships? My passion for understanding narcissistic abuse started early in my career when I noticed patterns of clients reporting they felt crazy in relationships. They doubted their own reality and ability to make sound judgments. It was clear manipulative and toxic dynamics were at play. She goes on, the more I researched, the more narcissistic personality disorder kept emerging as the culprit behind these unstable relationships, marred by gaslighting, exploitation, and emotional turmoil. Yet, so much literature and guidance around narcissism tended to be clinical, dry, and nearly impossible for everyday people to apply in their own lives. People needed a compassionate translator who could synthesize complex psychological concepts into tangible insights. So I dedicated myself, this is Dr. Ramani, to making research on narcissistic tactics available through books, media, appearances, and an online platform to make sense of partners, friends, or family members with narcissistic wounds distorting their behavior and relationships. My own background, this is Dr. Ramani. Growing up with a narcissistic parent and navigating those painful complexities certainly informs the empathy I bring to my audiences. I intimately understand the self doubt and loss of self that narcissistic abuse can instill. The healing journey is lifelong. So I share with my own vulnerability at times. In many ways, this is Dr. Ramani. I wish society didn't suffer from so many narcissistic epidemics requiring intervention. But as long as these disordered, pathological behaviors plague relationships, I'm devoted to empowering people with the knowledge and tools to protect themselves, set boundaries, and retain their self-worth against narcissist destructive tactics. I find it so rewarding anytime someone tells me that my work helped them confidently leave an abusive narcissist or radically improved their recognition of unhealthy dynamics. That makes all the long hours devoted to writing, filming videos, and answering thousands of questions absolutely worthwhile. I'm endlessly grateful this platform allows me to normalize discussions of narcissistic abuse and offer support to as many people as possible. Dr. Ramani is coming out with her latest book. It's going to be released on February 20th. It's called It's Not You, and it's going to be available in Amazon, actually for pre-order even now. And it should be an interesting book because she has had so many years of clinical experience. She's read research. She has kind of become such an authority, perhaps a world authority on narcissism. And the only way really to know if someone has narcissistic personality disorder is if they are evaluated by a clinical psychologist. The problem with people who have narcissistic traits is they don't think that they need any help because, everything is working out just fine for them. People who become CEOs or become, super successful, sometimes they're narcissistic and they just don't seek help because they don't think that there's anything wrong with them. So it's probably impossible to get somebody who has NPD to seek help, to even be diagnosed in the first place. But other people around them, after years of seeing what that person does in different situations, they can read about, topics like this. They can read research. They can talk to their own therapists and get help, even though the narcissistic person is probably never going to seek help. So the great thing is that you can seek help if you're in a relationship with someone like this. And really, there's no changing them. There's what they do is working for them. And so they're not going to be ever changing their worldview or their self view. And they think that they're fooling everyone and that they're smarter than everyone else, that they're always, the brightest in any group. And so, unfortunately, they may do well in their work life. And so, after a couple of promotions or even rising to the top of a company, if you're at the top, then yeah, you get to say how everything is run. And so, there's no accountability for you. And there's definitely people that we know of that actually, feel this way. Some people that are celebrities are very much like have narcissistic traits, and some people even have NPD. But yeah, you'd have to be diagnosed by a clinical specialist. And there's also another gentleman. His name is Sam Vaknin, and his last name is spelled Vaknin. And he has done a lifetime of research on narcissism. And if you wanted to really dive into the research behind studies of narcissism and also NPD, certainly check him out. There's also another, I think he's a psychologist. His name is Richard Grannon, and he has also done a lot of work so that people can spot a narcissist a lot earlier on in a relationship. And the only thing you can do really is to remove yourself from the relationship, because they're never going to change, and they're never going to like suddenly be kind and sweet and feel sorry. They never will. So, yeah, just wanted to reach out in case anybody is doubting their own, ability to judge and to think critically because somebody else is undermining them. Please seek help, and absolutely, if you can, safely leave the relationship, because it's never going to change. And you deserve so much better than this. So, I will talk about NPD in another show, and we can continue with the conversation about NPD and narcissism. So, thank you for spending time with me this evening. I hope that it's been helpful, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.